Time hides secret passageways all around us. This journey uncovers the most compelling clues to uncharted temporal dimensions, revealing a universe where the past, present, and future are not what they seem. You will gain a new understanding of reality itself, one that questions the flow of time and hints at our ability to navigate it. How did a pulsar vanish for decades only to return unchanged? Why do ancient structures seem to hold the key to time's deepest mysteries? By the end, you will see the fabric of existence in a completely new light. What does your own experience tell you about the fluid nature of time? A pulsar designated CT-0102 suddenly blinked out of existence. For over 2 decades, it was absent from our sky, a steady cosmic heartbeat that had fallen silent. Then, just as mysteriously, it returned. When astronomers found it again, its rhythmic pulse was unchanged, as if no time had passed for it at all. It was as though this dense stellar corpse had stepped off the universal stage, traveled down a hidden corridor of time, and returned to its exact place in the cosmic rhythm. This is not an isolated incident. Across the cosmos, we find events that defy our standard models of physics, acting as potential signposts for these uncharted temporal dimensions. Astrophysicist Dr. Elena Vance proposes these are not mere glitches. She describes them as temporal echoes, faint reverberations from alternate timelines or different layers of time that occasionally bleed into our own reality. Consider gamma-ray bursts, the most powerful explosions in the universe. Some release energies that seem fundamentally impossible within our understanding of stellar evolution. Could their immense power be drawn from a rupture in the temporal fabric itself, a brief window into a dimension where energy behaves differently? Another profound clue comes from stars that appear to age at an accelerated rate, compressing billions of years of life into a fleeting astronomical moment. They are not simply burning out, they are seemingly rushing through time. Even the famous WOW signal, that strong, narrowband radio wave detected in 1977, takes on a new light. While often hailed as a potential message from extraterrestrials, it might instead be a temporal artifact. Imagine a signal not from a distant star, but from a future human civilization, a piece of their communication that has accidentally leaked backwards through a fissure in time, arriving as a ghostly, one-time-only message. These cosmic irregularities are more than just puzzles for astronomers. They are profound challenges to our entire model of the universe, pointing toward a deeper, more intricate temporal structure interwoven with our own. If the very stars can behave as signposts for these hidden corridors, what does that suggest about our own perception of time's steady flow? This question naturally draws our investigation closer to home, to the one instrument we all possess that seems to bend time, the human mind itself. Our own minds may be the most accessible doorway to these hidden corridors. Think of the advanced meditator who reported experiencing entire lifetimes, centuries of history and emotion, all within the span of a single quiet breath. This is not mere fantasy, it is a reported phenomenon that highlights a profound truth. Time is fluid within human consciousness. Neuroscientist Dr. Marcus Thorne has spent decades studying what he calls temporal dilation in altered states of mind. His research reveals that during deep meditation or intense focus, the brain's activity can produce effects startlingly similar to the time dilation predicted by Einstein's theory of relativity. In these states, subjective time stretches and compresses, independent of the clock on the wall. This suggests our biology is hardwired with a latent ability to interact with time's deeper layers. This idea connects directly to a radical theory in physics known as the block universe. This model proposes that past, present, and future are not sequential, but all exist simultaneously, like frames in a vast, unchanging film reel. Our conscious awareness simply moves through this block, experiencing one moment at a time. But what if certain states of mind allow us to step outside that linear procession? Consider the countless accounts of precognitive dreams, where a person dreams of a specific, mundane event only to have it unfold identically in waking life days or weeks later. Or the stories of time slips, where an individual rounds a corner and for a few heartbeats perceives a street from the 1920s, complete with the sights and sounds of that era, before the modern world snaps back into place. These are not just ghost stories, they are consistent experiences reported by sane, rational people. They imply that consciousness might not be a passive rider on the river of time, but rather the captain of the vessel, capable of navigating its hidden currents and secret branches. If our own awareness holds this potential, then the ancient quest to master the mind through meditation and other practices takes on a thrilling new dimension. It becomes a form of training for temporal exploration. This brings us to our third compelling clue, one carved in stone and aligned with the heavens, the mysterious architecture of our ancient past. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a silent, monumental clue. Its base is aligned to the cardinal directions with an accuracy of within 1/15th of a single degree, a feat of engineering that modern architects with satellite technology would struggle to replicate. This is not random precision, it is a deliberate, encoded message. The pyramid's very structure seems designed to interact with the cosmos, with its air shafts precisely targeting specific stars like Alpha Draconis and Orion's Belt, stars that held profound significance in the ancient Egyptian understanding of time and the afterlife. This goes far beyond a simple calendar. It suggests the pyramid was conceived as a machine, a permanent fixture on the landscape intended to harness something far more elusive than sunlight, the very flow of time itself. Archaeoastronomer Dr. Liam Foster proposes that these ancient monuments were built at points of temporal resonance. He argues that structures like Stonehenge, with its heel stone capturing the first ray of the summer solstice sun, or the intricate Mayan temples aligned with the movements of Venus, were not merely observatories. They were devices designed to tune into specific frequencies of time. The theory suggests that at the exact moment of a solstice or equinox, when the sun, earth, and monument are in perfect alignment, a kind of doorway could be momentarily unlocked. This alignment might create a stable point in the fabric of spacetime, a portal to the very corridors we have been exploring. Consider the vast and mysterious Nazca lines in Peru. These enormous geoglyphs etched into the desert floor form complex patterns of animals and geometric shapes that are only comprehensible from high above. Mainstream archaeology suggests they were ritual pathways, but what if their true function was also temporal? Some researchers have found correlations between the sprawling line formations and future celestial events, alignments that would not be visible in the sky for thousands of years after they were created. This implies a foresight that defies our historical timeline, as if their creators were not looking at the stars of their own era, but mapping the heavens of a distant future. These architectural marvels collectively point to a staggering conclusion. Ancient civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, may have possessed a sophisticated, intuitive understanding of temporal dimensions. They might have gained this knowledge through deep states of consciousness, the very mental doorways we discussed earlier, or perhaps through contact with concepts so advanced we are only now rediscovering them with quantum physics. What lost techniques of perception did they use to see time not as a river, but as a landscape to be navigated? This profound mystery, carved in stone and aligned with the stars, forces us to look at the most fundamental building blocks of our reality. Two particles are born together, then flung to opposite ends of the universe. Yet, a change to one is felt by the other in the very same instant. This is quantum entanglement, a phenomenon Einstein himself called spooky action at a distance, and it shatters every classical rule we have about time and space. If information can travel faster than light, effectively ignoring the distance between them, what does that say about the nature of the connection they share? Physicists like Dr. Anya Sharma argue this non-locality is our most powerful clue. She suggests entangled particles are not communicating, but are in fact two parts of a single whole existing within a deeper temporal fabric, a dimension where past, present, and future are already woven together. This interconnectedness hints at the existence of hidden corridors where cause and effect are not a straight line. We see this again in the famous double-slit experiment. When a single particle is fired at a barrier with two slits, it behaves as if it passes through both openings at once, creating an interference pattern. Astonishingly, this behavior changes if we simply place a detector to observe which slit it goes through. The particle seems to know whether it is being watched, adjusting its past behavior based on a future measurement. It acts as if time itself is flowing in both directions. This leads to an even more mind-bending concept, the delayed choice quantum eraser. In this experiment, a decision made in the present about whether to observe a particle's path appears to rewrite its history, changing what it did in the past. The sequence of events we take for granted, cause-then-effect, becomes fluid. What if this quantum weirdness is not a quirk of tiny particles, but a fundamental property of reality itself, one that applies to time on a grand scale? Consider quantum tunneling, where a particle vanishes on one side of an impenetrable barrier and instantly reappears on the other. It does not go over or around, it seemingly steps through a hidden shortcut. Could massive objects, under the right conditions, perform a similar feat through temporal barriers, finding shortcuts not through space, but through time itself? This idea finds a terrifyingly large-scale analog in black holes. These cosmic voids are so dense that not even light can escape their grip, warping space-time to an unimaginable degree. Some theoretical models propose that the singularity at a black hole's heart is not a point of infinite density, but a gateway, a tier in the fabric of reality that could lead to another universe or perhaps another time frame entirely. The quantum rules that govern the very small might be the very same principles that allow for temporal passageways on a cosmic scale. If the building blocks of our universe routinely ignore linear time, then our own chronological experience may be the illusion. The question then becomes, could we ever learn to think like a quantum particle, to perceive and ultimately navigate these hidden corridors that connect all moments into one? This brings us to the final and most personal piece of the puzzle, the scattered historical records of individuals who may have accidentally stumbled through these very doorways. In the summer of 1901, two English academics, Charlotte Moberly and Elena Jourdain, were visiting the Palace of Versailles. While searching for the Petit Trianon, the Queen's retreat, they found themselves walking along an overgrown path. The air grew still and heavy. They saw women in long, old-fashioned gowns and a man with a wide, floppy hat who directed them onward with a dismissive wave. The landscape itself seemed to shift, becoming eerily quiet and devoid of modern sounds. Both women felt a profound and unsettling sense of melancholy. It was only later, after comparing notes, that they became convinced they had not simply gotten lost. They believed they had inadvertently stepped into the gardens of 1792, during the tumultuous days of the French Revolution. This is the Moberly-Jourdain incident, one of the most documented and compelling cases of a time slip. Such accounts are not isolated to French palaces. Travelers in remote Scottish glens have reported seeing Roman legions marching in the mist, their formations and armor described with a clarity that matches historical records. Others, walking near old English battlefields, have heard the clash of swords and the cries of soldiers, sounds that seem to bleed from one century into another. These are not simply ghost stories which typically involve spectral figures. A time slip is different. It is the experience of an entire environment from another era, complete with sounds, smells, and tangible surroundings that feel utterly real in the moment. Paranormal researcher Dr. Rebecca Moore has catalogued hundreds of these reports and finds a startling pattern. They frequently occur at specific types of locations, ancient sites of great emotional energy like old battlefields, or places with unique geological features, such as certain ley line intersections or areas with unusual magnetic activity. What could cause a person to momentarily step out of their own time? The trigger is rarely dramatic. It often happens during a state of mild distraction or daydreaming when the conscious mind is relaxed. A person might be walking a familiar path, their thoughts elsewhere, and they round a corner to find the street has transformed. Horse-drawn carriages clatter over cobblestones, the air smells of coal smoke, and people are dressed in period clothing. Then, just as suddenly, a modern car horn blares and the vision collapses. The experience is typically brief, lasting only seconds or minutes, but the memory remains vivid and precise for a lifetime. Skeptics argue these are hallucinations or waking dreams, yet many who report these events are stable, rational individuals who recall details of the past they could not have possibly known, details later verified by historians. This leads to a fascinating possibility. Perhaps the Earth itself holds the key. Dr. Moore and other researchers point to the role of localized magnetic fields. Intense emotional events, like a great battle or a mass celebration, might imprint upon a location's energetic field. Combine this with specific geological substructures, such as underground running water or dense mineral deposits, and you might create a temporary instability in the local fabric of spacetime. These spots could act as natural temporal weak spots, places where the barrier between then and now is thin. When a person's brainwave state enters a certain frequency, perhaps through that daydreaming or meditative walking, they might synchronize with this historical imprint and experience it as reality. The very ground beneath our feet, charged with the echoes of the past, might occasionally open a doorway, offering a fleeting glimpse into the hidden corridors that connect all ages. The Bermuda Triangle is far more than a navigational hazard. It is a living laboratory for temporal mysteries. In this infamous stretch of ocean, compasses fail to find true north, electronic equipment malfunctions without cause, and pilots have reported sudden, inexplicable losses of time, arriving at their destinations with unaccounted for gaps in their flight logs. These are not mere legends, they are consistent reports that point to a powerful underlying force, the Earth's own magnetic field. Geophysicist Dr. Omar Patel has dedicated his career to studying these geomagnetic anomalies. His research suggests that intense fluctuations in our planet's magnetic shield, whether from violent solar storms or the natural instability found near the magnetic poles, can create temporary weaknesses in the fabric of spacetime. Think of Earth's magnetic field not as a static barrier, but as a dynamic, flowing river of energy. Under normal conditions, this river flows smoothly, maintaining the steady pace of time we all experience. But during a solar storm, when a massive wave of charged particles from the sun crashes into this magnetic river, it creates turbulence. This turbulence might produce temporary eddies and whirlpools, brief openings where the normal rules of time break down. Dr. Patel's fieldwork in areas with high anomaly rates reveals a direct correlation between localized electromagnetic spikes and altered human perception. People in these zones frequently report feelings of disorientation, the sensation of time speeding up or slowing to a crawl, and even fleeting visual phenomena that do not belong to the present moment. But what creates these localized hotspots on the planetary scale? The answer may lie beneath our feet. The Earth's crust, with its vast mineral deposits and deep fault lines, acts as a giant natural electrical circuit. Certain crystalline structures, like quartz, can generate powerful piezoelectric charges when subjected to geological stress. Underground aquifers moving through specific mineral layers can create massive, flowing electrical currents. Where these terrestrial forces converge, they can generate powerful, localized electromagnetic fields that rise to the surface. These are the geomagnetic hotspots, places where the veil may grow thin. This is not just theoretical. Controlled laboratory experiments have demonstrated that applying strong, fluctuating magnetic fields around a human subject can induce measurable time dilation effects. Test subjects in these environments consistently misjudge the passage of time, believing only a few minutes have passed when half an hour has actually elapsed. Their brainwave patterns show distinct shifts, entering states similar to deep meditation or hypnosis. This provides a stunning scientific basis for the time slip experiences we explored earlier. The pilot losing 10 minutes over a geologically active region, or the individual experiencing a historical vision at a site with unusual magnetic properties, may be encountering the same phenomenon, just on different scales. Their consciousness is being temporarily synced to a different rhythm of time by an invisible electromagnetic conductor. This reveals a profound connection between our planet's hidden energy and our own perception of reality. If we can learn to map these geomagnetic anomalies with precision, correlating solar activity with terrestrial electromagnetic hotspots, could we eventually predict where and when these temporal windows are most likely to open? This possibility draws us directly into the realm of advanced theoretical physics, where the map of reality is being redrawn with equations that point toward the very heart of time itself. Our reality might be built upon dimensions we cannot see. String theory, one of the most ambitious frameworks in modern physics, posits that the universe is composed not of points but of tiny, vibrating strings. These strings resonate across at least 10 dimensions, most of which are curled up and hidden from our everyday perception. Among these extra dimensions could be the very architecture for the hidden corridors of time we have been exploring. Time itself might not be a single flowing river, but a vast branching tree, with each limb representing a different timeline or temporal dimension. Physicist Dr. Kenji Tanaka has dedicated his career to mapping these possibilities. He explains that if our universe is merely one membrane or brain floating in a higher dimensional space, then what we perceive as a solid reality is just one surface in a vast cosmic ocean. In this view, other brains could be parallel universes separated from us by a higher dimensional gap. Temporal corridors, then, might be bridges or tunnels connecting these adjacent membranes. Imagine these brains not as static sheets, but as dynamic entities that can occasionally touch or ripple. At those points of contact, the laws of physics and the very flow of time could momentarily intertwine. A traveler moving through such a bridge might find themselves in a universe with a completely different history, where the Roman Empire never fell or where another version of themselves made a different life choice. This connects directly to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, where every possible outcome of every event actually occurs, spawning an infinite number of branching timelines. These are not just philosophical ideas, they are mathematical models that provide a plausible structure for how multiple, coexisting temporal dimensions could exist. But what would such a bridge look like in the physical world? Theoretically, cosmic strings, which are incredibly dense, thread-like defects in spacetime, or naturally occurring wormholes, could serve as the conduits. These cosmic structures might act as stable tunnels through the higher dimensional bulk, connecting one brain universe to another. While we have not yet detected a wormhole, their existence is perfectly consistent with Einstein's equations. The energy required to create or stabilize one is currently beyond our reach, but nature might have forged them in the intense fires of the Big Bang. So, what experimental evidence could ever confirm such a mind-bending concept? Scientists are looking for subtle signatures. One approach involves searching for gravitational echoes, faint ripples from collisions between our brain and another in the higher dimensional space. Another method analyzes the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, for imprints of a pre-Big Bang universe or contact with a parallel brain. The key to unlocking this mystery, however, might not lie solely in massive particle colliders or deep space telescopes. It might reside within the very instrument trying to comprehend it all, human consciousness itself. If an infinite number of ourselves exist across the multiverse, could our awareness occasionally brush against theirs, catching a glimpse of a life we did not choose? You think of an old friend you have not spoken to in years, and at that exact moment, your phone rings with their name on the screen. This is not just a lucky guess, it is a synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that hints at a profound connection woven through the fabric of time itself. These moments feel guided, as if some deeper current in reality has momentarily surfaced to deliver a message. The psychologist Carl Jung, who named this phenomenon, saw synchronicities as evidence of an acausal connecting principle, a place where the inner world of the mind and the outer world of events intersect outside the chain of cause and effect. He believed they were glimpses of a unified reality where time and psyche are not separate. Think of a dream you have, vivid and strange, only to see its events play out in your waking life days later. Or the uncanny experience of searching for an obscure piece of information, only to have a book fall off a shelf and open to the exact page you need. These are not random accidents. Some theorists propose they occur at nodal points in time, moments where different potential timelines or temporal layers briefly converge. In that fleeting intersection, information can slip from one thread of possibility into another. Your intense thought about your friend might have resonated on one timeline, and that resonance echoed into the timeline where they were simultaneously deciding to call you. The call was not caused by your thought in a linear way, but both were expressions of a single event occurring in a deeper temporal dimension. This implies something staggering about our own role in this process. Our focused intentions and powerful emotions might act as magnets, attracting or even creating these temporary pathways through the temporal landscape. Time becomes a participatory phenomenon, responsive to the state of our consciousness. So how can we become more attuned to these subtle guideposts? The first step is simply to cultivate a state of open awareness, to notice when the external world seems to mirror an internal state with uncanny precision. This practice of mindful observation is not about forcing coincidences, but about recognizing the patterns when they naturally arise. This leads us to consider the biological clocks ticking within us, our own innate connection to these greater rhythms. Our circadian rhythms, the daily cycles that govern our sleep and wakefulness, are a direct physical link to the planetary cycles of light and dark. They are a form of biological timekeeping that is deeply entangled with the Earth's own temporal field. Perhaps by aligning our own internal rhythms with the natural world, we can sensitize ourselves to the deeper synchronicities that flow through the hidden corridors of time, learning to navigate not just by clock and calendar, but by the meaningful whispers of a connected universe. A salmon swims for years across the vast expanse of the open ocean, yet it always finds its way back to the very stream where it was born. This journey is guided by more than just magnetic fields or the scent of water. It is driven by a perfect internal timing mechanism that tells the creature precisely when to turn homeward. This biological clock, shared in different forms by nearly every living thing, is our ninth and perhaps most intimate clue. It suggests that life itself evolved to perceive and navigate the subtle currents of time's hidden architecture. Migratory birds offer an even more stunning example. The Arctic tern embarks on an epic voyage from pole to pole, a journey of tens of thousands of miles. It does not possess a map or a calendar, yet it arrives and departs with seasonal precision, as if tuned into a planetary rhythm far more profound than the simple cycle of day and night. Chronobiologist Dr. Sophia Chen has dedicated her life to studying these internal rhythms. Her work reveals that our own sensitivity to temporal shifts, like the disorienting fog of jet lag, is not just an inconvenience. It is a powerful signal that our biology is acutely sensitive to the stability of the temporal field around us. When we cross time zones, our internal clock falls out of sync with the local one, and we feel the dissonance physically. This suggests our bodies are not just tracking time, they are actively interacting with it, and a sudden shift exposes that delicate connection. The master conductor of this internal symphony is a tiny region in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This cluster of nerve cells acts as our central pacemaker, regulating our sleep-wake cycles, hormone release, and even our metabolism. But what if this biological clock is more than a timer? What if it is a finely tuned receiver, an organic interface capable of detecting faint signals from the very temporal corridors we have been exploring? This idea is supported by the uncanny timing found throughout the natural world. A bear knows exactly when to fatten up and enter hibernation, its body responding to cues that go beyond the shortening days. Certain flowers, like the night-blooming cereus, open their petals at a specific hour with clockwork regularity, as if obeying a cosmic schedule. These are not simple reactions to sunlight or temperature. They are deeply ingrained, evolutionary adaptations to a complex temporal environment. The consistent accuracy of these biological processes implies that life has learned to surf the waves of time, using its hidden flows for navigation, reproduction, and survival. These creatures are not consciously thinking about time, they are feeling it, living in harmony with its deeper dimensions in a way our modern minds have forgotten. So, what profound wisdom can we learn from nature's innate temporal knowledge? If a bird can navigate by a sense we barely comprehend, could we, through understanding our own biology, learn to recalibrate our internal clocks? This quest to master time does not end with biology. It inevitably pushes us toward technology, to the creation of machines that might one day replicate these natural abilities and open the corridors for all. The whispers of Cold War laboratories speak of a ship that vanished. Coded as Project Rainbow, the official story was radar invisibility, but persistent rumors tell of a naval destroyer, the USS Eldridge, enveloped in an intense electromagnetic field. Witnesses claimed the ship not only disappeared from view but reappeared hundreds of miles away in a matter of moments, its crew reportedly suffering from severe mental disorientation and some allegedly phasing in and out of reality. While mainstream history dismisses the Philadelphia experiment as a hoax, the legend endures because it taps into a deeper truth: humanity's relentless drive to conquer time itself. This is not an isolated chapter. From clandestine government programs to bold private research, the 20th and 21st centuries are filled with attempts to manipulate the fourth dimension. Russian physicist Dr. Alexei Volkov, who studied declassified Soviet-era documents, points to experiments with high-energy rotating magnetic fields. The theoretical goal was not to move an object through space, but to twist the local space-time continuum around it, creating a temporary temporal bubble where different rules of physics might apply. These are not just stories. In modern labs, physicists use powerful lasers to create conditions where light is slowed to a walking pace, effectively stretching the fabric of time within a confined area. In the quantum realm, experiments have demonstrated a form of time reversal, where a scrambled photon is returned to its original, ordered state. Think of it as unscrambling an egg at the quantum level, a process that seems to locally rewind the arrow of time. The most powerful particle accelerators on Earth, like the Large Hadron Collider, might be doing more than just smashing protons. Some theoretical models suggest the immense energies concentrated in these collisions could, for a fleeting instant, spawn microscopic wormholes, tunnels through the higher dimensions that could connect distant moments as easily as distant places. The ultimate goal of such research is to find a stable key, a technology that can open a doorway in time wide enough and long enough to permit conscious passage. But what are the consequences of turning that key? The ethical questions are as profound as the science. If you could open a corridor to the past, could a single, careless action unravel the present? Would travel to the future create insurmountable paradoxes for those left behind? The desire to control time is not a modern obsession. It is a thread that runs through our oldest stories, revealing that our ancestors may have grappled with these very same possibilities and perils long before the first generator was ever built. Ancient stories from every corner of the world speak of time's strange fluidity. The Hindu epic, the Bhagavata Purana, tells of King Kakadmi, who journeyed with his daughter to the heavens to consult the creator god, Brahma. Their audience was brief, a mere moment in the celestial realm, but when they returned to Earth, they found that ages had passed and their entire kingdom, their lineage, and everyone they had known were dust and memory. This is not an isolated tale. In the mountains of New York, the story of Rip Van Winkle describes a man who naps for 20 years after an encounter with mysterious figures. From Japan comes the legend of Yorishima Taro, a fisherman who visits an undersea palace for what feels like 3 days, only to return to his village and find 300 years have vanished. These are not mere fairy tales. Scholar Dr. Indira Mehta studies these cross-cultural narratives and identifies a profound pattern. She argues they are humanity's earliest documented encounters with temporal dilation, intuitive understandings of time's hidden corridors preserved in the language of myth. The common threads are impossible to ignore. The journey often begins with a portal, a sacred grove, a mountain cave, or a body of water that serves as a threshold. The traveler enters a different realm, a place governed by its own rhythm of time. Upon returning, they are strangers in their own land, living relics of a forgotten past. These stories suggest that our ancestors were not just storytellers, but perhaps chroniclers of real, albeit rare, phenomena. Look deeper into the world's spiritual traditions, and the concept becomes even more embedded. The Australian Aboriginal concept of dreamtime is not a linear history, but a timeless, eternal now where ancestral beings created the world, a dimension that continues to exist parallel to our own, accessible through ritual and dream. In Norse cosmology, the great world tree Yggdrasil connects the 9 realms, which can be interpreted not just as different worlds, but as different epochs, its roots and branches forming pathways through the ages. These cultural artifacts point to a universal human concept, a deep-seated intuition that the flow of time is not absolute. They imply that for millennia, humanity has carried a subconscious map of temporal dimensions, a map drawn not with equations, but with symbols, heroes, and gods. How could so many disparate cultures, with no contact with one another, all conceive of time in this non-linear way, unless they were tapping into a fundamental truth about reality itself? These myths are more than just compelling stories. They are a challenge to our modern scientific arrogance, suggesting that the key to understanding time may have been with us all along, encoded in our oldest dreams. This brings us to the very engine of those dreams, the mysterious landscape of the sleeping mind where time's rules are rewritten every night. Within the silent theater of a lucid dream, time's rigid laws dissolve completely. A dreamer can consciously decide to walk backward through their own memories, watch a sunset in reverse, or loop a single moment for what feels like hours. This is not passive sleep, but an active exploration of a personal temporal dimension, a living laboratory of the mind where you are both the scientist and the subject. Researchers like Dr. Julian Hayes have placed experienced lucid dreamers in brain scanners and discovered something remarkable. During these states of conscious awareness within a dream, brainwave patterns show distinct similarities to those observed in temporal lobe epilepsy and certain near-death experiences, both of which are famously associated with profound time distortion and the vivid reliving of past events. It seems that specific neural conditions can temporarily unlock the brain's internal clock, allowing for a direct, subjective experience of time's fluidity. The techniques to reach this state are both ancient and modern. A common method is reality testing, where you habitually question your waking state throughout the day, asking, "Am I dreaming?" This practice builds a mental reflex that can carry over into the dream world, triggering lucidity. Another technique involves waking after 5 or 6 hours of sleep, staying awake for a short period, and then returning to sleep with the focused intention of recognizing the dream state. Once lucid, seasoned practitioners report extraordinary journeys. They describe visiting detailed, historical settings, witnessing events with a clarity that feels more like memory than imagination. Others speak of moving forward, experiencing potential future scenarios with such intensity that they wake with a startling sense of premonition. These are not just fleeting images, they are full sensory experiences that can, on rare occasions, include verifiable details the dreamer could not have known through normal means. This exploration extends beyond dreaming. Advanced meditators speak of reaching a state of pure timelessness, where the concepts of past and future simply vanish, leaving only an eternal, expansive present. Similarly, carefully controlled studies with certain psychedelic substances have shown that users consistently report a collapse of linear time, experiencing multiple moments simultaneously or feeling as though they are existing in a loop that spans centuries. These varied subjective experiences all point toward the same stunning possibility. The mind, under the right conditions, is not merely perceiving time, but is actively interfacing with a broader temporal network. Our consciousness might be a receiver, and practices like lucid dreaming and deep meditation are ways of fine-tuning its dial, allowing us to pick up signals from the hidden corridors that connect all moments. So what daily practices can sharpen this innate ability? Consistent meditation, even for just a few minutes a day, trains the brain to quiet its internal chatter, creating the mental stillness necessary to perceive subtler rhythms of reality. Keeping a detailed dream journal upon waking strengthens the connection between your waking and dreaming self, making lucidity more likely. Simply paying closer attention to the synchronicities and intuitive hunches in your daily life can act as a form of calibration, teaching you to trust the non-linear whispers of your own mind. This conscious exploration of time's malleability within our own awareness leads us directly to one of its most compelling and controversial expressions, the spontaneous and undeniable knowledge of events before they occur. Abraham Lincoln awoke from a troubling dream just days before his fateful visit to Ford's Theater. He recounted walking through the White House, drawn by the sound of weeping, until he found a corpse lying in state, guarded by solemn soldiers. When he asked who had died, a soldier replied, "The president." He was dreaming of his own assassination. This is not an isolated story of a grieving nation, but one of history's most powerful examples of precognition, a clear challenge to our understanding of time as a one-way street. These moments of future knowledge suggest that information can sometimes travel backward through time, flowing through the very corridors we have been exploring. Parapsychologists like Dr. Helen Cross have spent decades studying this in laboratory settings. Her work involves Ganzfeld experiments, where participants are placed in a state of mild sensory deprivation, their minds open and receptive. They are then asked to describe whatever images come to them, while in another room, a computer randomly selects a video clip to be played later. The results are statistically significant, with participants consistently describing elements of the future video at a rate far above mere chance. It is as if their minds, when quieted, can tune into a signal that has not yet been broadcast in our linear reality. This phenomenon finds a startling parallel in theoretical physics with the concept of retrocausality. In the quantum world, the idea that an effect can precede its cause is not just philosophical, it is a mathematical possibility within certain interpretations of quantum mechanics. A decision made in the present could theoretically influence the outcome of an event that already occurred in the past. This provides a potential framework for understanding precognition, not as magic, but as a natural, if rare, interaction with a deeper temporal structure. We see this intuitive foresight play out in more mundane, yet equally compelling, ways. A business leader abruptly cancels a flight based on a gut feeling they cannot explain, only to learn the plane encountered severe turbulence that caused injuries. An investor makes a successful stock choice based on a sudden, overwhelming conviction with no supporting data. These are not just lucky guesses, they are moments where human consciousness appears to tap into a stream of information flowing from the future. This implies that the future may not be a single, fixed point, but a landscape of possibilities, and our intuition is a natural instrument for navigating its contours. So how can we cultivate this innate ability? The first step is learning to trust those subtle hunches and quiet nudges that we so often dismiss as imagination. Keeping a journal of your intuitive impressions and checking them against later events can build a powerful awareness of your own precognitive signals. This practice of mindful attention tunes your internal receiver, making you more sensitive to the whispers from time's hidden pathways. The quest to understand and harness this flow of information from the future now drives physicists to create entirely new states of matter in the lab, pushing us toward the next frontier of temporal exploration. A diamond imperfection pulses with a silent, unending rhythm, a tiny defect in its carbon lattice that ticks back and forth without ever running down. This is not a machine, it is a time crystal, a new phase of matter that breaks the oldest rule in physics. It moves, oscillating perpetually without consuming any energy. Nobel laureate Dr. Frank Wilczek first proposed these impossible structures, suggesting that just as a regular crystal has atoms arranged in a repeating pattern in space, a time crystal has a structure that repeats in time. It is a clock that winds itself forever. This discovery shatters our conventional understanding of thermodynamics, which states that all systems eventually wind down into a featureless state of equilibrium. A time crystal, however, never reaches equilibrium. It exists in its ground state, its lowest energy form, yet it is perpetually in motion, a clear violation of time translation symmetry. This means the laws of physics are not the same at every moment for a time crystal. It carves out its own tiny, looping timeline. In laboratories around the world, physicists create these temporal oddities using chains of ions suspended by lasers or specific defects within diamonds, all demonstrating this bizarre, self-sustaining oscillation. The connection to our cosmic clues is profound. Remember the pulsar that vanished and returned unchanged. Could it be that such stellar objects are, in a sense, natural time crystals on a cosmic scale? Their perfect rhythmic pulses a manifestation of this same temporal symmetry breaking across light years. The implications for exploring hidden corridors are staggering. A stable time crystal could act as an anchor, a fixed point in the swirling currents of time. One theoretical application is a temporal sensor, a device that uses a time crystal's perfect rhythm to detect minute fluctuations in the local flow of time, much like a seismometer detects tremors in the Earth. If a temporal corridor were to briefly open nearby, the time crystal's oscillation would stutter or shift, registering the event with impossible precision. Even more speculatively, an array of such crystals might one day be used to generate a coherent temporal field, creating a stable portal by enforcing a new, localized rhythm of time upon a specific location. This is no longer fantasy, it is the frontier of exotic physics, pointing toward a reality where time has architecture we can not only observe but potentially engineer. What could we learn by building a doorway that uses a time crystal as its lock and key? This tangible, physical manipulation of time's fabric finds a strange and beautiful echo in the one human endeavor that has always sought to capture the fourth dimension, the world of art. A novel written in the late 19th century describes a world of instantaneous visual communication and global information networks, a world that would not exist for another 100 years. The author, Morgan Robertson, penned a book titled The Wreck of the Titan, which told of an unsinkable British ocean liner called the Titan that strikes an iceberg in the North Atlantic and sinks, with a great loss of life due to a shortage of lifeboats. This was published in 1898. 14 years later, the Titanic met its fate in an eerily similar fashion. Such stories are far more than simple coincidence. They suggest that creativity itself might be a conduit, a means of tapping into the hidden corridors of time and drawing inspiration from the future. Artists, writers, and musicians often describe their best ideas as arriving unbidden, as downloads from some unknown source. The prolific science fiction author Philip K. Dick was famously open about his own strange experiences. He claimed that a vast, hidden reality had been revealed to him in a series of visions, delivering complex philosophical and technological concepts that felt less like imagination and more like direct transmissions from an alternate timeline. His stories, filled with shifting identities and unreliable realities, read like field reports from someone who has glimpsed the fluid nature of time itself. This phenomenon is not confined to literature. The composer Richard Wagner spoke of his epic Ring cycle as a work that came to him from a higher source, a mythic tapestry that felt already written. In more recent times, musicians have created entire genres of music that seem to anticipate the cultural and technological landscape of the future, their sonic landscapes resonating with a world that does not yet exist. Painters, too, have produced works that defy the artistic conventions of their era, their styles and subjects only being fully understood and appreciated by audiences decades or even centuries later. These artists are not merely predicting the future, they are tuning their consciousness to a frequency where time is not a barrier, allowing ideas to flow freely across the ages. A great work of art, then, becomes a kind of temporal artifact, a physical object in our present that contains the emotional and intellectual resonance of a future or parallel moment. How can we use this understanding? We can approach art not just as entertainment, but as a form of temporal cartography. By studying the recurring themes and uncanny predictions in literature, film, and music, we may begin to map the contours of these hidden dimensions. The stories we tell ourselves about time travel, from H.G. Wells's foundational The Time Machine to the complex physics of films like Interstellar, might be more than just speculation. They could be humanity's collective subconscious attempting to process and understand a profound truth about our reality, that time is a landscape we are already navigating in our dreams and our deepest creative acts. This intimate connection between art and time's mysteries inevitably leads us to a more personal question, a question about the mind that creates and perceives this art. What is the psychological cost of glimpsing beyond the veil of linear time? The human mind is a delicate instrument, finely calibrated to a steady, linear flow of time. When that flow is suddenly broken, the psychological impact can be profound. A person who experiences a time slip is not just witnessing a strange event, they are having the very foundation of their reality shaken. They return to their own moment carrying a memory that does not fit, a perfect, vivid recollection of a world that should not exist. The struggle is not with the past they saw, but with the present they must return to, a present that now feels fragile and uncertain. This is the core of temporal shock, a deep disorientation that can manifest as anxiety, social withdrawal, or a relentless need to find validation for an experience that sounds like madness. Psychologist Dr. Maria Lopez specializes in this emerging field, which she terms temporal dissonance. She works with individuals whose lived experiences directly contradict the linear model of time, helping them navigate the aftermath. Her patients are not delusional. They are often high-functioning professionals who have had a single, inexplicable event rupture their understanding of cause and effect. The primary challenge is integration, the process of weaving this non-linear event into the tapestry of their personal identity without letting it unravel their grip on everyday life. Without a supportive framework, the mind can struggle to cope. Some individuals become obsessed, searching for historical proof of their vision until it consumes their lives. Others bury the memory, but it festers as a source of latent anxiety, a secret knowledge that isolates them from others. To address this, support networks have quietly formed, both online and in person, where people can share their stories of temporal encounters without fear of ridicule. In these groups, a woman who briefly walked a Victorian street can talk openly with a man who heard the roar of a dinosaur in a misty forest. They find solace in shared experience, a community for the chronologically displaced. Dr. Lopez's therapeutic approach often incorporates mindfulness and grounding techniques. She teaches patients to anchor themselves in the sensory details of the present moment, the feel of their feet on the floor, the sound of their own breath. This is not about dismissing their experience, but about building the mental resilience to hold two conflicting truths at once, the reality of the clock and the reality of their memory. The goal is not to cure them of a delusion, but to help them achieve temporal integration, accepting that their personal timeline may have branches and loops that others cannot see. This psychological frontier teaches us a crucial lesson. Exploring the hidden corridors of time demands more than just scientific curiosity. It requires immense emotional strength and a stable sense of self. The journey changes you, not just intellectually, but at the very core of your being. So how do we cultivate the inner stability needed for such voyages? This search for stability naturally draws our attention to the world beneath our feet, to the ancient concept of Earth's own energetic pathways, its ley lines and planetary grids. Straight lines connect ancient monuments across the English countryside, running from Stonehenge to Glastonbury Tor and beyond. These alignments, known as ley lines, are far more than curious archaeological patterns. Many researchers believe they are the surface traces of a vast planetary energy grid, a hidden network of power that could directly influence the flow of time itself. The theory, championed by thinkers like John Mitchell, suggests that these lines are conduits for subtle electromagnetic or gravitational forces that flow through the Earth. Where these lines cross or converge, they are thought to create powerful vortices, points where the fabric of spacetime grows thin and temporal anomalies become possible. This is not just a map of sacred sites, but a potential chart of temporal weak spots scattered across the globe. Practitioners of dowsing and geomancy have long claimed the ability to detect these energies. Walking the land with rods or pendulums, they map invisible currents that correspond perfectly with known ley alignments. At powerful intersections, many report a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The air grows heavy and still, sounds become muffled as if heard from a great distance. Most strikingly, people frequently experience a distinct warping of time, where minutes stretch into what feels like hours, or a profound sense of timelessness descends. Some visitors to these hotspots describe fleeting visions, seeing landscapes overlaid with ancient forests, or hearing the faint echoes of long-forgotten languages. One of the most famous of these alignments is the St. Michael Ley, a straight track that runs across southern England, connecting a series of churches and ancient sites dedicated to the Archangel Michael. This line is steeped in legends of mythical battles between celestial forces, stories of spiritual revelation, and persistent accounts of strange phenomena. It is as if the line itself is a recording, a scar on the land that holds the energetic imprint of powerful events, making those moments accessible under the right conditions. These earthly clues suggest that our planet's very geography is interwoven with the architecture of time. Certain mountains, stone circles, and even simple crossroads might function as natural portals, their stability maintained by the planet's own energetic heartbeat. If we could learn to accurately map this global network, correlating ley line intersections with historical accounts of time slips and measured electromagnetic anomalies, we might finally begin to predict where and when these temporal windows are most likely to open. This quest to read the landscape requires a specific skill, a quieting of the mind to perceive the subtle whispers of the earth, a practice that leads us directly into the disciplines of meditation and mindfulness. A seasoned meditator sits in perfect stillness, yet feels the entire universe breathing with them. In this profound state of mindfulness, the sharp edges of past and future dissolve, leaving only a boundless, eternal present. This is not an escape from time, but a deep immersion into its truest nature, a continuous flow where the distinctions between moments are revealed as a construct of the busy mind. Spiritual teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh guide us to this understanding by focusing on the simple act of breathing. He teaches that by anchoring our awareness in the inhale and exhale, we can touch the timeless reality that exists within every second, a reality where time is not a series of separate points but a single, unbroken stream. This is the essence of the 18th clue, the practice of mindfulness as a direct pathway to perceiving time's hidden corridors. The techniques to reach this state are deceptively simple. A basic body scan where you slowly bring your attention to each part of your physical form can trigger a profound shift in perception. As you focus on the sensations in your hand or your foot without judgment, the mental chatter about what happened yesterday or what you need to do tomorrow begins to quiet. In that newfound silence, time itself seems to change texture. It feels less like a rushing river and more like a vast, calm ocean, with your awareness floating on its surface. For advanced practitioners, this can go even further. There are consistent reports from long-term Buddhist monks and seasoned meditators of experiencing multiple timelines not as a theory, but as a direct sensory reality. In deep states of samadhi or concentrated meditation, they describe a consciousness that can hold the child they once were and the elder they will become in the same eternal moment, perceiving these not as memories or projections, but as coexisting aspects of a unified whole. This is why they so often describe linear time as the ultimate illusion, a veil that drops away when the mind becomes utterly still. You do not need to be a monk on a mountain to experience this. Modern secular mindfulness apps have popularized these ancient techniques, and millions of users report a common side effect, a tangible alteration in their perception of time. During a 20-minute session of guided breath awareness, a feeling of spaciousness arises where 10 minutes can feel like an hour of deep rest, effectively stretching subjective time through sheer mental clarity. This ability to consciously manipulate our internal experience of time's passage is a powerful hint. It suggests that inner stillness is not just a psychological comfort, it is a tuning mechanism. A quiet mind, free from the constant pull of past regrets and future anxieties, may become sensitive to the subtle rhythms and frequencies of the temporal dimensions that interweave our own. The practice of mindfulness, then, becomes a form of personal calibration, a daily ritual that sharpens our ability to perceive the doorways when they appear. How can your own daily practice of stillness begin to open these doors? This intimate connection between a quiet mind and the perception of time's deeper layers finds a surprising parallel in the chaotic rain of particles from deep space, a constant cosmic storm that may be testing the very stability of our temporal field. High above the Earth, astronauts on the International Space Station live in a world of subtle temporal shifts. Their velocity creates a measurable, though tiny, time dilation effect, slowing their clocks compared to those on the ground. Yet many report experiences that go far beyond the math, describing vivid dreams or sudden, intrusive memories that feel foreign, as if they are not entirely their own. The common thread in these anomalous reports is a constant, invisible rain, the shower of high-energy cosmic radiation that permeates space. This is our 19th clue, the possibility that cosmic rays are not just a hazard, but a key, interacting with our very biology to unlock or reveal the hidden corridors of time. Astrophysicist Dr. Neil Gupta analyzes data from deep space missions and proposes a radical idea. These particles, accelerated to near light speed by distant supernova and black holes, carry immense energy. When they strike a human body, they do not just pose a radiation risk, they can cause microscopic mutations and induce unique states within the brain. Dr. Gupta's models suggest this could temporarily alter our perceptual filters, allowing for glimpses of information streams from adjacent timelines. This leads to the concept of temporal genetics, the idea that exposure to specific cosmic energies might activate dormant sections of our DNA, sections that evolve to perceive a more complex, multi-layered reality. We are not talking about gaining superpowers, but about awakening a latent sensitivity, a biological capacity to sense the branches and forks in time's river that our ordinary consciousness filters out. Laboratory experiments support this. Studies where test subjects are exposed to controlled, low-level radiation fields show measurable changes in cognitive function, including slight distortions in their time estimation abilities. Pilots flying at high altitudes, where the protective blanket of the atmosphere is thinner, consistently report more instances of lost time or unexplained time compression than those who fly lower. Even animal behavior shifts dramatically during periods of intense solar activity, when solar storms propel a greater flux of energetic particles toward Earth. Birds lose their migratory bearings and deep-sea creatures rise to the surface, their internal navigation seemingly scrambled by the cosmic onslaught. These are not disconnected events. They paint a picture of a universe that is dynamically and constantly participating in the structure of time, using its most fundamental particles as chisels to sculpt and occasionally open temporal pathways. If our own biology is this sensitive to the cosmic weather, then venturing further into space demands a new kind of protection. We would need shields not just against radiation sickness, but against temporal shock, safeguards for the mind as it learns to navigate a reality where time is fluid and the past is not always behind us. This profound responsibility forces us to confront the ultimate question, not of how to open these doors, but of whether we should. Opening a door to the past could shatter the world you know. This is the 20th clue, the profound ethical dilemma of temporal interference, where the very act of observation might become an act of destruction. Philosopher Dr. Ethan Brooks frames this around a core principle from quantum physics, the observer effect. In the quantum realm, the act of measuring a particle influences its behavior. Now scale that up to a historical event. If we were to open a window to observe the Battle of Hastings or the signing of a peace treaty, would our observation alone collapse the wave of possibilities, forcing one specific outcome and forever altering the timeline that led to our present? The risk is not merely changing history, but erasing the conditions that made the observation possible in the first place, creating a paradox that could unravel causality itself. This leads directly to the familiar concept of the butterfly effect from chaos theory, where a tiny, insignificant action can trigger a massive, unforeseen chain of events. Imagine a time traveler stepping on a single insect in the Carboniferous period. That insect's absence might disrupt the food chain just enough to prevent the evolution of a specific mammal, a mammal whose distant descendant was crucial to human evolution. The traveler returns to a present where humanity never existed. The moral weight here is staggering. Even with the purest intentions, fixing one perceived wrong could inadvertently create a far greater catastrophe. This forces us to ask, do we have the right to prevent a historical tragedy if doing so risks the entire future? Stopping a single assassination might save a life, but it could also prevent the social reforms or technological advances that tragedy ultimately spurred. The ethical path becomes a labyrinth with no clear exit. These dilemmas are no longer confined to science fiction. In physics conferences and ethics committees, scholars are already debating the protocols for temporal exploration. They wrestle with the potential for temporal colonialism, where a technologically advanced group could exploit the past for resources or strategic advantage, effectively erasing cultures and histories for their own gain. The responsibility of this knowledge is immense. Unraveling time's corridors demands more than brilliant physics. It requires a universally developed moral compass. How do we govern such a power to ensure it unites humanity rather than dividing it across the ages? This question of collective responsibility naturally draws our focus to the mind of the entire species, to the shared consciousness that may already be navigating time's hidden streams. A strange stillness settled over millions of people moments before the Great Tsunami of 2004. Across different continents, individuals reported waking from anxious dreams of rising water, or were struck by a sudden, unexplainable urge to move to higher ground. This was not a trick of hindsight, but a documented wave of premonition that swept through the collective human psyche just before the disaster struck. This phenomenon points to our 21st clue, the power of collective consciousness to sense and perhaps even influence the hidden corridors of time. It suggests that when minds unite in focus or feeling, they can generate a kind of temporal field, a shared awareness that momentarily pierces the veil of linear cause and effect. Sociologist Dr. Lena Petrov analyzes global social movements and mass meditations. She observes that during events where millions focus on a single intention, like a global prayer for peace or a coordinated meditation, the pace of real-world change can seem to accelerate. Legislative hurdles dissolve, public opinion shifts rapidly, and breakthroughs occur with a speed that defies normal social inertia. It is as if the unified intention of the group taps into a faster-flowing timeline, pulling its desired future into the present. This idea finds a foundation in Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, a deep, shared reservoir of human experience and archetypes that connects us all. Modern network theory provides a new lens for this ancient idea, modeling humanity not as separate individuals, but as nodes in a vast, living web. In this model, consciousness itself could be the connecting thread. When a critical mass of nodes resonates with the same frequency of thought or emotion, the entire network might achieve a temporary state of temporal coherence, allowing information to flow not just across space but across time. We see glimpses of this in the controversial 100th monkey effect, where a new behavior is said to spread instantaneously through a species once a certain number of individuals learn it, as if knowledge itself jumps a gap. On a global scale, the instantaneous, unified response to a crisis often feels less like a reaction and more like the activation of a pre-existing plan, a shared script that everyone suddenly remembers. These collective experiences imply that our unity is more than a social ideal. It might be a tangible force that shapes the very dimensions of time we are trying to navigate. So how can we consciously harness this collective intention for positive outcomes? The answer may lie in recognizing that our shared hopes and fears are not just abstract emotions, but active participants in weaving the fabric of reality. This profound connection between mind and time naturally calls for a tool to measure it, a technology capable of detecting the subtle ripples our collective consciousness creates in the temporal field. A new class of sensor is quietly listening to the whispers of spacetime itself. Engineers like Dr. Chloe Zhang are building devices of impossible sensitivity, quantum gravity sensors that can detect the faintest tremor in the fabric of reality. These instruments do not measure light or sound, they measure the subtle warping of gravity, the minute fluctuations that might betray the presence of a hidden temporal corridor. Think of it as a form of temporal cartography, an attempt to draw a map of time's secret geography by sensing its invisible contours. The technology builds upon the success of observatories like the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, which proved it could detect ripples from colliding black holes billions of light years away. Now, that same principle is being miniaturized and refined to scan for anomalies in our own planetary backyard. These sensors hunt for the gravitational equivalent of a draft from a door left slightly ajar in a sealed room, a telltale sign of a passageway to another when. Beyond gravity, other tools are being repurposed for this hunt. Advanced LiDAR systems scan landscapes not just for topography, but for pockets of distorted space where light behaves strangely. Neutrino detectors, which can peer through entire planets, might one day be tuned to find streams of particles that do not belong to our present moment. There are even controversial claims of time cameras, experimental devices that allegedly capture faint, ghostly images superimposed over a modern scene, visual echoes from a different era. This proactive search extends into our daily lives through crowd-sourced science. Smartphone apps now allow users to report sudden feelings of disorientation, lost time, or strange visual phenomena, creating a live, global map of potential temporal hotspots. Each anonymous report is a data point, a clue added to a puzzle that spans the globe. What breakthroughs could emerge from this networked effort to map time's weak spots? The data from these advanced sensors might one day allow us to predict when and where a temporal window is most likely to open, transforming a mysterious phenomenon into a measurable event. This technological push to measure the intangible forces us to look upward, to the primary engine of our planetary energy, the Sun, whose violent moods may hold the ultimate key to unlocking these doors. The Sun's fiery temper dictates the rhythm of human history. Major revolutions, artistic renaissances, and periods of unprecedented invention consistently cluster around the peak of the Sun's 11-year cycle, when solar flares and sunspots rage most violently. This is not a matter of astrological fortune, but a potential physical mechanism, our 23rd clue that the Sun itself acts as a conductor for the hidden corridors of time. Astronomers like Dr. Rajiv Singh have meticulously tracked this correlation, noting that periods of intense solar activity coincide not only with spectacular auroras and radio blackouts, but also with a measurable spike in reports of anomalous phenomena, from sudden technological glitches to inexplicable intuitive hunches. It seems that when the Sun awakens, the veil between moments grows thin. The process is both beautiful and violent. A solar flare, a titanic explosion on the Sun's surface, hurls a billion-ton cloud of charged particles toward Earth at nearly the speed of light. When this solar wind slams into our planet's protective magnetic shield, the magnetosphere, it compresses and distorts the field, creating turbulence in the very fabric of local spacetime. This turbulence might generate temporary eddies, brief openings where the normal, steady flow of time is disrupted. Think of it as the Sun striking a colossal gong, and the reverberations are felt not as sound, but as waves through the dimension of time itself. Historical patterns bear this out with startling clarity. The vibrant explosion of the Renaissance, a period that radically reshaped human thought, unfolded during a documented grand solar maximum. In our own era, pilots and air traffic controllers in high-latitude regions, where the aurora borealis is most active, occasionally report unexplained time discrepancies during intense geomagnetic storms. Their instruments might show a few minutes have passed, yet their internal sense and flight logs insist it was only seconds, or vice versa. They are flying directly through a solar-energized temporal disturbance. This solar clue forces a profound shift in perspective. Our local star is not merely a source of light and heat, it is the primary engine driving temporal accessibility on Earth. Its cycles create windows of opportunity, periods when the corridors connecting different eras might be more easily traversed. This leads directly to a question that has haunted philosophers and physicists for centuries. What if the steady, linear time we experience is not the fundamental reality, but a convincing illusion constructed by our own minds? A respected physicist, after 50 years of studying the cosmos, reached a startling conclusion. He stated that time, as we experience it, does not exist in the external universe. It is a story the brain tells itself, a necessary construct for organizing a flood of sensory information into a coherent narrative of cause and effect. This is the profound illusion of linear time, a persistent feeling that the past is gone, the future is not yet, and we are moving through a fleeting present. Albert Einstein himself, whose theories of relativity first mathematically shattered the idea of a universal clock, called the distinction between past, present, and future a stubborn illusion. His equations showed that time is relative, stretching and compressing with speed and gravity. For an astronaut traveling at near light speed, a journey that feels like a few years could see centuries pass on Earth. This is not a theory, it is a measured physical reality. The flow we feel so intensely is not a fundamental property of the cosmos, but a deeply personal projection. This scientific revelation finds a powerful echo in ancient Eastern philosophies. The Buddhist concept of anicca, or impermanence, teaches that all of reality is in a state of constant flux, with no permanent self or substance to be found. The feeling of a solid me moving through a linear timeline is seen as the root of suffering, an attachment to a story that is not ultimately real. In this view, the present moment is not a point on a line, but a vast and boundless field of experience. Modern physics has built on this with the block universe theory, which proposes that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, like scenes printed on an infinite film reel. Our consciousness is not moving through this block, but is simply illuminating one frame at a time, creating the unshakable sensation of a journey from one moment to the next. We see evidence for this in the quantum world, where the famous double-slit experiment suggests that a particle's path is not determined until it is observed, blurring the line between cause and effect. The delayed choice quantum eraser takes this even further, showing that a decision made in the present can seemingly influence what a particle did in the past. These are not paradoxes, but clues that our linear sequence of events is a local phenomenon, not a cosmic law. So what are the hidden temporal corridors we have been exploring? If the block universe is real, then these passages are not tunnels through time, but bridges between different parts of the same eternal structure. A time slip is not a journey to the past, but a momentary shift in which frame of the block your consciousness is accessing. The pulsar that vanished did not travel, it simply became unsynchronized with our current slice of reality for a while. This implies that discovering and navigating these corridors requires a fundamental shift in our own awareness. We must learn to quiet the mind's relentless narration, the part that insists on a before and after. Advanced meditators who report experiences of pure timelessness are not escaping reality, they are touching a deeper layer of it. They are experiencing consciousness without the filter of the time-constructing brain. How can we begin to make this shift in our own lives? The first step is to question the reality of the flow itself. Notice how a moment of fear can make seconds feel like hours, while an afternoon of joy can vanish in what feels like an instant. Your own perception is already proving that time is malleable. This investigation into the nature of time as an illusion brings us to a critical component of that illusion, the very mechanism that builds the story of our lives, the faculty of memory. An elderly woman closes her eyes and is once again 7 years old, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin and the texture of a long-vanished blanket. This collapse of decades is more than nostalgia. It is a demonstration of memory's true power as a personal gateway to the corridors of time. Your memory is not a simple recording. It is a dynamic, biological interface with time itself, a tool that may allow you to mentally navigate the very dimensions we have been exploring. Neuroscientist Dr. Isabella Rossi has dedicated her career to understanding this phenomenon. Her research into the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, reveals it does not store information like a linear filing cabinet. Instead, it encodes experiences in a complex associative web, where a single scent or sound can unlock a cascade of vivid recollections, completely bypassing chronological order. This non-linear architecture suggests that the brain is inherently designed to access moments out of sequence, treating time as a landscape to be wandered rather than a line to be followed. Consider the rare condition of hypothymesia, where an individual can recall almost every single day of their life in exquisite detail. For them, remembering is not a reconstruction, but an immediate reliving. It is as if their consciousness maintains a constant, faint connection to every point in their personal timeline, allowing them to step back into any moment at will. This could be far more than a neurological curiosity. It might represent a heightened form of temporal perception, a natural ability to keep multiple whens actively accessible. We already use techniques that hint at this latent power. Therapists employ timeline therapy, guiding patients to mentally revisit past traumatic events not as passive observers, but as active participants who can bring new resources and understanding to that moment. The result is often profound healing, as if the past itself is being rewritten in the patient's present emotional landscape. Similarly, the ancient method of loci, a memory palace technique, involves placing memories within an imagined spatial landscape. To retrieve a memory, you take a mental walk through this palace, effectively traveling across a map of your own mind to different points in your personal history. These practices show that we can consciously train our minds to navigate time. By improving the clarity and accessibility of our memories through focused attention and consistent practice, we may be sharpening our very ability to perceive and interact with time's hidden layers. What if a perfectly clear memory is not just a recollection, but a momentary reactivation of a past reality within your consciousness? This intimate connection between memory and time's fabric finds a surprising parallel in the physical world, in the vibrations that silently structure our reality. A low hum, barely at the edge of hearing, seems to slow the very pulse of the room. Researchers like Dr. Leo Grant are mapping this phenomenon, demonstrating how specific sonic frequencies can directly warp our perception of time. In his lab, volunteers listening to carefully calibrated binaural beats, where each ear receives a slightly different tone, consistently misjudge time's passage, reporting that minutes stretch into what feels like an hour of deep, focused tranquility. This is not merely psychological suggestion. It appears that these sound waves can entrain the brain, synchronizing its electrical rhythms to a new, slower tempo, effectively conducting a personal experience of time dilation. The principle is ancient, rooted in the understanding that everything in the universe, from a spinning electron to a distant galaxy, vibrates. If time has a hidden architecture, then sound could be the resonant key that makes it sing. We see this potential etched into our oldest sacred spaces. The soaring vaults of Gothic cathedrals were not just designed for visual grandeur. Their acoustics were engineered to amplify specific chants and frequencies. A choir singing in a space like this creates a complex field of standing waves, vibrations that bounce and reinforce each other, filling the air with a palpable, physical energy. Worshippers in these environments often report a loss of self and a transcendence of ordinary time, feelings that may be triggered by the architecture itself vibrating in harmony with their own neural oscillations. This sonic interaction with time is a thread running through countless spiritual traditions. Shamans across cultures use relentless, rhythmic drumming to enter trance states. The steady beat, often between 4 and 7 cycles per second, guides their consciousness on journeys they describe as visits to the past, the future, or parallel spirit worlds. They are not using metaphor, they are using a practical sonic technology to navigate the very corridors we are exploring. In the modern world, this ancient knowledge is being rediscovered and digitized. Meditation apps now offer soundscapes built around solfeggio frequencies, specific tones historically associated with spiritual healing and transformation. Users of these sonic tools frequently describe heightened intuition, vivid, dreamlike visions, and a tangible sense of connection to something timeless. Could these prescribed vibrations be tuning our awareness, much like tuning a radio to receive signals from other temporal layers? The implication is profound. If sound can alter the subjective flow of time within our minds, then the right combination of frequencies might do more than change perception. It might temporarily thin the veil itself. What ancient hymn, what forgotten rhythm could act as a password to a different century? This exploration of vibration as a bridge across time naturally draws our attention to its cosmic counterpart, the pure, silent frequency of light itself. Light's greatest secret is its unwavering speed, a universal constant that refuses to change no matter who is watching or how fast they move. This single, stubborn fact is the bedrock of Einstein's theory of relativity and the origin of time dilation, where time itself stretches and compresses to keep light's speed absolute. It is this very rigidity that hints at light's deeper role, not just as illumination, but as the architect of temporal boundaries, defining the walls of our perceived reality, and perhaps even locking the doors to hidden corridors. Physicists like Dr. Hannah Lee are exploring this frontier in laboratories where the impossible becomes routine. In a state of matter known as a Bose-Einstein condensate, cooled to near absolute zero, light can be slowed to a walking pace and in some experiments brought to a complete standstill. In that frozen light, time for the photons themselves effectively stops. Dr. Lee's work suggests that if we could scale this phenomenon, creating a bubble where light is halted, we might engineer a local rupture in the temporal field, a pocket of frozen time that could serve as a stepping stone to other dimensions. This profound relationship between light and time is woven into the fabric of gravity itself. General relativity tells us that gravity bends space-time, and since light follows these curves, a massive enough object like a black hole can trap light entirely, creating an event horizon where time, from an outside perspective, appears to freeze solid. The famous twin paradox illustrates this on a human scale, where one twin traveling at a significant fraction of light speed returns to Earth to find their sibling has aged decades more. They haven't just traveled through space, they have traveled through time, their personal timeline stretched thin by the immutable speed of light. Every time we gaze at a distant galaxy, we are looking millions of years into the past, watching light that is itself an ancient messenger. But could some photons be more than just historical artifacts? Some theoretical models propose that certain light particles, or photons, might be transient visitors from adjacent temporal realms, their unique polarization or frequency acting as a signature of their origin. If we learn to read these signatures, the night sky could become a map not just of space, but of intersecting timelines. These light-based clues force a stunning conclusion: to master time, we must first learn to master light. Future technologies might not use roaring engines, but silent, precise arrays of lasers and crystals to sculpt localized distortions in spacetime, creating temporary bridges by manipulating the one universal rule that never bends. If light is the key, then our own innate sense of knowing, that sudden flash of insight without logical explanation, might be the first human tool for using it. A corporate executive stared at the glowing numbers on his screen, a cold dread washing over him. The data was flawless, the projections were strong, and every rational indicator said to proceed with the massive merger. Yet a powerful, visceral feeling in his gut screamed for him to walk away. Against all advice, he pulled out of the deal at the last possible moment. 2 weeks later, the market for that sector collapsed, and the company he almost acquired was rendered worthless. This was not luck, it was a perfectly timed decision guided by something beyond logic, a clear example of intuition acting as a direct line to temporal information. These gut feelings are more than just emotions, They could be our biological interface with the hidden corridors of time, allowing us to subconsciously sense outcomes that have not yet unfolded in our linear reality. Psychologist Dr. Omar Jones has spent years studying this phenomenon in high-stakes environments like trading floors and emergency rooms. He describes intuition not as a mystical sixth sense, but as the brain's remarkable capacity for rapid, unconscious data processing. This processing does not appear to be limited to present moment sensory input. It might also incorporate faint signals from the temporal field, a theoretical domain where past, present, and future possibilities coexist. An artist who creates a masterpiece in a single, inspired burst is not inventing from nothing. She might be tapping into a creative current that flows from a future where her work is already complete. A firefighter who instinctively avoids a collapsing hallway seconds before it gives way is not just lucky. His unconscious mind may have processed micro-tremors and air pressure shifts that his conscious brain had no time to register, or perhaps he sensed the future collapse itself. These moments suggest that our intuition is a natural, hardwired navigational tool for a reality that is far more interconnected than it appears. So how can we sharpen this innate ability? The practice is surprisingly simple. Keeping an intuition journal where you briefly note down your gut feelings and later record what actually happened builds a powerful feedback loop that trains you to trust these non-linear nudges. Regular mindfulness meditation quiets the chatter of the conscious mind, creating the mental silence necessary to hear the whispers of your intuitive sense. When you learn to distinguish this quiet knowing from mere fear or desire, you begin to calibrate your internal compass. The theories explaining this are as profound as the experiences themselves. Some propose that intuition allows our consciousness to momentarily dip into the temporal field, sampling potential futures or drawing on the accumulated wisdom of the past in a way that feels like a sudden knowing. This implies that the future is not a single, fixed destination, but a landscape of probabilities, and our intuition is a natural instrument for navigating its contours. By cultivating this skill, we are not predicting fate, we are actively participating in shaping it, choosing the most harmonious path forward from a sea of infinite possibilities. If our individual intuition can tap into this vast network of time, what happens when we consider the collective existence of every possible version of ourselves across the multiverse? Every choice you make echoes across a sprawling cosmic network. At this very moment, another version of you decided not to read this, while another lives in a world where this conversation never existed. This is the multiverse, a theoretical reality where every quantum decision, every fork in the road, spawns a new, fully formed universe, creating an infinite web of parallel timelines. These are not just separate stories, they are potential corridors, hidden pathways connecting alternate realities where time itself flows at different rates. Cosmologist Dr. Sarah Klein frames this as the ultimate temporal crossroads. She explains that if the multiverse is real, then what we perceive as a hidden corridor in time might not be a tunnel through our own past or future. Instead, it could be a bridge to a neighboring universe with a completely different temporal coordinate, a reality where you are living in what we would call the 19th century or the 25th. This idea finds its foundation in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. In this view, every time a particle has a choice, the universe doesn't pick one outcome, it splits, actualizing all possibilities. Your decision to turn left or right this morning didn't just happen. It created two branching universes, each with its own continuous timeline. The temporal weak points we have explored, from geomagnetic vortices to states of deep meditation, might not be doors to our own history, but windows to these adjacent branches. Consider the unsettling accounts of the Mandela effect, where large groups of people share a specific, detailed memory that contradicts documented history. They vividly recall a world where a beloved children's book series was spelled Berenstein Bears, not Berenstain, or where a famous movie line was spoken differently. While often dismissed as collective false memory, another possibility exists. These could be fleeting moments of bleed-through, where the memories of our alternate selves in a very similar, yet slightly different, universe momentarily impinge upon our own consciousness. It feels like a memory from our past, but it is actually a whisper from a parallel present. What would it mean to truly communicate across these temporal crossroads? The implications are as dizzying as they are profound. If you could send a message to another version of yourself, what wisdom would you share? Could a warning from a future branch prevent a catastrophe in another? This shifts the entire quest from navigating a single river of time to learning the cartography of an infinite ocean of now. The very nature of exploration changes, suggesting that the first step is not building a machine, but expanding the boundaries of your own awareness to sense the presence of the other who's living just a thought away. Your morning coffee ritual can become a gateway to time's hidden layers. Begin with a single, deliberate breath before you even take the first sip. Feel the warmth of the cup in your hands, and for just 1 minute, let your awareness rest entirely in the present. In that brief stillness, you are not thinking about the day's schedule or yesterday's worries. You are simply here. This practice of grounding yourself in the now is the first step to sensitizing your mind to time's deeper currents, making the idea of temporal corridors feel less like science fiction and more like a natural extension of your own awareness. Experts in consciousness studies recommend keeping a small notebook by your bed, not just for dreams, but for those fleeting moments of intuition that strike throughout the day. When a sudden memory of a childhood place arises for no reason, or you have a powerful feeling about a future event, jot it down with the date. Over weeks and months, you may begin to see subtle patterns, threads of connection that hint at a consciousness not bound by a simple linear sequence. This dream and intuition journal becomes your personal logbook for navigating time's hidden geography. Another powerful practice involves syncing with the planet's own rhythm. Spend just 10 minutes sitting quietly in a park or your garden, focusing not on your thoughts, but on the natural world around you. Notice the slow movement of a cloud, the patient growth of grass, the steady turning of the earth. This is not passive relaxation. It is an active recalibration of your internal clock to a grander, more stable tempo. By aligning your personal rhythm with the Earth's, you may find yourself more receptive to the subtle whispers of other temporal layers, those moments of déjà vu or unexpected clarity that feel like a breeze from another when. For a more directed exploration, try a simple visualization as you fall asleep. Gently bring to mind a historical period that fascinates you, not to recall facts, but to imagine the sensory details, the smell of the air, the texture of clothing, the quality of the light. As you drift off, hold the intention to connect with the essence of that time. You are not forcing a time travel experience, but simply opening a door in your mind, signaling your curiosity to the broader tapestry of time. Many who practice this report unusually vivid and historically accurate dreams, as if their focused intention allowed their consciousness to brush against another epoch. Some groups take this further, organizing synchronized global meditations with the specific aim of influencing the collective experience of time. The theory is that if enough minds unite in the intention for peace or healing, they might create a ripple in the temporal field, pulling a more harmonious potential future into the present moment. On a personal level, even tools like tarot cards can be reframed not as fortune-telling, but as instruments for temporal insight. The random shuffle of the cards can act as a mirror, reflecting the hidden currents and potentialities of your life path in that moment, helping you see the landscape of your personal timeline from a higher vantage point. These are not magical tricks, but practical, daily disciplines that train your brain to perceive reality as the multi-layered, temporal construct it likely is. They empower you to move from a passive observer of time to an active participant in its flow. The journey into temporal exploration begins not with a complex machine, but with your very next breath, your next moment of quiet attention. This shift from personal practice to global collaboration is already shaping the next frontier, where citizen scientists and researchers unite to map the hidden architecture of time itself. A new class of observatory is rising, not to study the stars, but to listen to the silent rhythm of time itself. International collaborations are now pooling resources to construct the first dedicated temporal observatory, a facility designed with one extraordinary purpose: to detect and study the hidden corridors we have been exploring. This marks a pivotal shift from theoretical speculation to active, global investigation. These are not simple telescopes, they are complexes of ultra-sensitive quantum gravity sensors, arrays of magnetometers monitoring the Earth's field in real time, and supercomputers running algorithms trained to find patterns in chaos. Imagine a global network of these stations, from deep underground laboratories to remote mountain peaks, all synchronized to catch the faintest whisper of a temporal anomaly as it occurs. This grand endeavor is no longer confined to secret government programs. While organizations like DARP have historically investigated the physics of space-time, the frontier is now exploding with private ventures. Visionaries like Elon Musk have openly speculated on the potential for manipulating fundamental reality, while the late Stephen Hawking famously hosted a party for time travelers, an experiment that, while whimsical, underscored a serious scientific curiosity. Projects like the Breakthrough Initiatives, which scan the cosmos for signs of intelligent life, could easily expand their mandate to include the search for temporal artifacts or structured signals that defy conventional time. The potential breakthroughs on the horizon are staggering. The first stable, microscopic wormhole created in a lab would not be for physical travel, but would serve as a proof of concept, a tiny bridge between 2 points in spacetime that could be studied and understood. We are also on the cusp of developing temporal artificial intelligence, advanced AI systems that can digest centuries of historical anomaly reports, real-time geological data, and solar weather forecasts to predict where and when the next temporal window might open. This would transform a mysterious phenomenon into a forecastable event. With this power comes profound responsibility, which is why ethics committees at institutions like the United Nations are already drafting preliminary frameworks for temporal research. They grapple with questions we have never faced before. Who has the right to observe the past? Could the act of observation itself alter the timeline? International conferences on temporal physics, once a fringe topic, are now gaining mainstream attention, drawing together physicists, neuroscientists, philosophers, and even artists to map this uncharted territory. The acceleration is palpable. Startups are already prototyping consumer-grade time-sensing devices, wearable tech that might one day vibrate gently to alert you to a localized temporal fluctuation. The exploration of temporal corridors is rapidly evolving from a passive observation of clues to an active, concerted effort to understand and ultimately navigate them. This promises changes that will ripple through every facet of society, from communication and transportation to our very understanding of history and identity. As this temporal revolution gathers momentum, it invites each of us to consider our role. Will you be a passive observer, or will you cultivate the awareness and curiosity to become an active participant in humanity's next great journey? The universe is quietly whispering its secrets to anyone willing to listen. Our journey through pulsars that vanish, minds that stretch moments, and stones aligned with the stars reveals a single, stunning truth. Time is not a barren wasteland of lost moments, but a landscape teeming with hidden pathways and uncharted dimensions. Every quantum quirk and ancient alignment is a signpost pointing toward a reality far more intricate and wondrous than we ever imagined. This new understanding challenges you to see your own life differently. The steady tick of the clock is not a prison, but a single rhythm in a grand symphony of time. Your own moments of intuition, your déjà vu, or that sudden flash of insight are not glitches. They are personal encounters with the very corridors we have explored. They are proof that you are already connected to this deeper temporal fabric. Let this knowledge inspire a new kind of growth, both personal and collective. As you become more aware of time's fluid nature, you can learn to navigate your own path with greater wisdom, seeing challenges not as permanent obstacles but as passing phases in a much larger journey. The next step in this great adventure is to share your discoveries. Your unique experience of time is a valuable piece of the puzzle. Did a dream feel like a memory from another era? Have you ever felt a profound connection to a historical period for no logical reason? Your story matters. By sharing these insights with others, we weave a collective map of time's hidden geography, each person adding a thread to the tapestry. Our exploration does not end here. This is merely the beginning of a much larger conversation about the greatest enigma of all. If these mysteries of time and space have ignited your curiosity, consider subscribing for more journeys to the edge of understanding. And we would genuinely love to hear from you. In the comments below, tell us which clue resonated most deeply. Was it the cosmic mystery of the vanishing pulsar, the intimate power of lucid dreams, or the profound silence of the quantum realm? Your voice is part of the expedition. Together, we can continue to unravel the secrets of the cosmos and step boldly into the corridors that await our